That's an interesting question. We didn't set out to build Ushahidi to help develop Africa. That wasn't our goal. Our goal was to solve a real problem that we had here in Kenya in 2008. What happened then is we saw that there was a big need for this kind of software, this platform, all over Africa and the world. So we went back to the drawing board and made it open source and available to anybody. And we said, well, if we make it easily accessible, people will be able to do what we did. It took us 3 days, but in 3 hours instead. And so what we've seen is that in countries throughout East Africa, of course, but also Southern and Western Africa, Ushahidi has been deployed from everything from tracking animals and their habitats to crime and corruption to election monitoring, which has been really interesting to see the pickup of an African software both in Africa and then globally as well. Well, the iHub is really a catalyst. It's in many ways what our job is to do is create a central nexus point for the technology community in Nairobi and help them get further faster. So connect them with corporates, investors, help the startups have a place to go with fast internet connection speeds, and peers, like-minded peers, have young academic guys come and be able to do some research here, and work with the government to make sure that the needs and desires of the technology community, the guys who actually build the things, are being met. The challenges for setting up a place like the iHub in Nairobi are really things that can be overcome by the community itself. So what we do is we try and empower the guys who actually work here and guys who work in the city to come together and solve the problems that we have. So if, let's say, one is making sure we have a fast enough internet connection, we go out and we talk to the different ISPs and say, hey, here's something that we need, and it's going to help you because you're going to have the guys who are building software working on your network, and you'll get goodwill for it. And so that's how we have one of the fastest connections in Kenya is because we have fiber into the room from one of the local ISPs, Zuku. And then the same thing applies to actual needs in the space itself. So let's say, how do we set up the network? How do we want to make it work? Both the Wi-Fi and the Ethernet connections. And we have a team of 5 community guys. So guys who are just volunteers, some of them who work in here every day, some of them who come from outside and work in big corporates elsewhere, who come in, figure it all out, configure it, and that problem is solved for the rest of the community. So really involving the community to solve the community problems. Well, I'll tell you this. What we think is that Ushahidi is an example of technology coming from Africa and going global. So reminding people here in Africa that we can build global level software, world-class software. And so in many ways, the ability for us to build tools like Ushahidi can be done by somebody else in Ghana or somebody else in Nigeria or somebody else in Cairo or Egypt, or Johannesburg for some other type of tool. So showing what can be done and saying we have the skill sets here to do it. That's our biggest role, is to show people what can be done and that they can do it too. The iHub, in many ways, where we're standing, was to say, we think there's more skill in Nairobi to build more Ushahidi type organizations. How can we set up a place that allows that to happen? So the iHub is for that purpose as well. Kenya has had a tradition of bloggers for a number of years. In sub-Saharan Africa, it has always been one of the leading countries in number of bloggers, and that applies now to Twitter as well and other tools. So we have that, but we also have we have guys who are really great at creating mobile applications and games. It's one of the competitive advantages we have here. So we have one guy sitting right over here who does mobile phone games, and he's really good at it. He makes Android and iPhone games, and he does it for clients outside of Kenya. Right? We have other guys who come in here and are really good at doing doing translation for different tools. So we have one guy who's actually 100% fluent in Japanese and Spanish as well, and he builds, again, Android applications and does that for global clients. So those kind of things are pretty interesting to see that you didn't necessarily expect. And then we've always had a really good creative culture here, where guys are really good at art and drawing, and we have a member of the community who runs this site, or two of them, called African. The site they run is called African Digital Art, and they put on creative group meetups here, where you have videographers and photographers and illustrators and animators and website designers who come together and share what they know and show off what they've done. And so what I think is really interesting is seeing that group, that community, intersect with this kind of programmer and digital developer community, and then create new things. And so we're starting to see that. We're seeing some really high-class video come out and some really good websites as well. What you need to know about the iHub is this: that it's neutral territory. We have 4 corporate partners. There's no government money here. Ushahidi, who kind of put the place together, is a neutral organization. We're a free and open source software nonprofit tech company. So we're easy to trust. We're known as trusted intermediaries. So it's easy for people to come in here and use the space. And then what's bigger is them learning to trust each other and talk to each other about what they're working on, so that good ideas come together and have babies, and we have new projects. And that's what's fun to see, is we see guys coming together and new companies being built because they feel free enough and trusted enough in this space to share with each other.